Hi, families. Mrs. Peters here in version 2 of, or video 2 of my Hope to Support You, Supporting Your Children in Writing. And this video is going to be primarily on handwriting and capital letters, punctuation, and a little bit of spelling. So, what should my third grader be able to do? So the first thing is that they should, by this point, have pretty efficient and consistent motions to form letters in Danilian writing. And Danilian is the type of letter formation that Battleground and most districts I'm familiar with use. I think there's a second one that some districts maybe in the East Coast use, but Danilian is intended to be a precursor to cursive writing. And speaking of cursive, third grade in years back, like when my kids were in third grade, seemed to be the grade that kids learn to write in cursive. That has, I believe, kind of slipped off our plates as the demands for content, including writing across 3 genres of, opinion, narrative, and informational. We don't really have enough time to teach cursive, although it's sometimes fun to teach kids just how to write their name in cursive. And a lot of kids still, they really want to do that because they think it's kind of a grown-up thing to do. The important thing to remember is if they're actually forming their letters properly in Danilian, it is going to look a lot like cursive. I don't, as a third and fourth grade teacher, see a lot of consistency in letter formation, which is unfortunate. But that would be kind of the expectation because that consistent letter formation is going to lead to more legible writing. The other thing about handwriting is there's really, when you think of lowercase letters, there's really 3 types of letters. There's tall letters, and in this case, they're in yellow. So they're letters that should go up to the top line. And then there's what I tend to refer to as short letters, like the blue ones, and they should only go up to what would be that middle line on primary paper. And then the G that is in orange is what I tend to call a dirt letter because that tail goes down under the dirt line. And so we used to use, when I taught first grade, this idea of sky letters, grass letters, and dirt letters. So I still tend to think of those letters like the G as being a dirt letter, and I'll use that with my students. But also, all of those letters should rest on the line. We don't want to have letters kind of floating out in space by the time we get to third grade. There's also consistency in uppercase letters. One thing that should be true, and with kids who have the most efficient handwriting, is that there is no letter or number, for that matter, that starts in the dirt, is what I say. They don't start at the bottom. Letters always start at the top. So it's not a huge thing. I mean, if your child has kind of internalized a way to write, it's pretty late in the game to be fixing those things. But I try, and as I taught first grade, to support kids to know that letters always are formed from the top down. So consistent capitalization by third grade, kids should be consistently beginning their sentences with an uppercase letter. And they should also be writing the pronoun I as uppercase. And just so you know, the words uppercase and capital tend to be used kind of interchangeably. But they should have that. I mean, occasionally you're going to come across times where we have to go back and edit and fix that. But generally speaking, we should see that. And the other thing that should be kind of taken care of by now is we shouldn't see like random capital letters. There should be pretty consistent use of lowercase letters when needed. So this little short sample kind of displays that. So the only part I really want to talk about with spelling right now is that those high frequency words that occur a lot, they're like the sets of words that in kindergarten, first, and maybe in second grade, students were trying to master in reading, really should be consistently spelled at this point. So in this little sample, I've underlined several and some of the trickier ones might be like when. They should be writing the word when with that WH digraph. Done with that, that does not look like it sounds, but all of those words that you see underlined, those are words that should consistently be spelled correctly. They should also be consistently using a beginning capital at the beginning of their sentence and then an ending mark. So when we go back and we edit, we oftentimes will use a green pencil for green or for go and a red pencil for the end. So that green is where we go through and we underline all the uppercase letters that we start sentences with. That's the go. And then we take a red pencil and we circle the end of that sentence, and that's the stop. And so that should be happening fairly consistently. It doesn't happen, I mean, definitely kids are going to be missing that. And so we'll go back through. I will let you know in a first draft, and we'll talk a little more about the writing process, but we try and encourage our kids. I mean, kids can only really think about a certain number of things at one time. And if they're trying to control conventions, if they're trying to master spelling and capitalization and end marks, especially for my less fluent writers, they really struggle with content. So we try and encourage them to use the writing process where they are getting their ideas down. And then we can go back and we can reread and we can look for those beginning capitals and end marks. Here are some samples. I mean, this is kind of displays the range of writing I might see in third grade. So A, you'll see, for the most part, they have their letters resting. Some letters are floating a little bit. They don't really have that consistent tall letter, tall, and middle letter, middle. And so, I mean, you'll see in the middle of that sometimes the words like kind of start to float. They do have consistent spaces between words. B, looks like this writer is a little more fluent and maybe trying to adapt to writing on lined paper of this kind. I try and get my students to consistently skip a line in their writing for this purpose and also because it helps us when we want to revise. But they do have their letters resting on the line. I think they're a little more consistent with their tall letters being tall, their middle lines, I mean, being their short letters kind of in the middle. And then, of course, C is, what I see already, especially now that I've gotten a chance to see some writing. I do see this level of handwriting and letter formation and capitalization and end marks in writing. And so if your child's not here yet, certainly by the end of third grade, we would want to see handwriting that's a little more consistent with that. So that might give you an idea of what to expect just as you're looking at your child's writing. I have some resources, especially with letter formation, that I'm happy to share with families, especially as I get to see their handwriting, that I think are really, really good. They were created by an occupational therapist that I worked with back in when I taught first grade. So reach out to me if you would like those copies of those, or I may reach out to you and suggest that you use them with your child. Anyway, I hope that helps. And next video, we'll talk a little bit about opinion writing, which is what we'll be focused on a lot here in third grade. So thanks for watching.